everyone, and welcome to the Nickel City Mafia YouTube channel. Please be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, what do I always say, Jake? Drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. We greatly appreciate your support. I'm Michael Thornton, and joining me today is the encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to football, both pro and college, and someone I expect to be working for ESPN someday soon. And that's my co-host over here, Jake Podger. Jake, it's been a minute, as the younger folks like to say. That would be you, the younger folks. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Mike. I'm good. I was impressed with you saying that. It's been a minute. Love that. Yeah. I think the last time we did a show was our Super Bowl preview show. So, but a Bills show in particular, we ended on kind of a tough note with the post-game show for the Chiefs game. So it still lives in the back of my mind, but I'm ready to try to push forward. And I threw the old Micah Hyde jersey on today, so I'm ready to go.
I am not sporting one of my Nike. I'm going Tommy Hilfiger today. I don't know.
Oh, nice. There you go. It's a nice quarter zip.
Anyway, let's see here. I want to thank for those that are out in the channel. We're going to have some fun today. I'll talk about what we're going to get into here in a little bit, but I wanted to take a moment and talk about Josh Allen and his quick rise to celebrity status. I mean, Jake, he was all over the place after that loss to the Chiefs. I mean, he showed up. He did a Pro-Am Pebble Beach golf tournament, and that was that was so much fun to watch. There was one hole where he's actually by the crowd. He's a little bit off the fairway, and he's lining up his shot. And then he picks it up and throws it onto the green. And it was about 150 yards away. And the fans just loved it. I saw him on the Jim Rome show. I saw him on the NFL Honor Show. And I forget the gentleman's name you were actually telling me. So I have a little picture up here of him. And they kind of cut to that and talked about that overtime. And Josh, it was a lot of fun what he said. So what do you think about that? I mean, the guy, are we going to start seeing him on the Jake from State Farm commercials?
I was talking to you about this before the show here a little bit, Mike. I'm a little skeptical about that because we saw sort of what happened with Baker Mayfield's play. He does all these progressive commercials, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh man, is he even going to be the quarterback for the Browns anymore? You know, which I think he is, but you could tell there was a little bit of a dip in his play. I don't know if that has anything to do with the commercials, but I always like guys to sort of fly under the radar and just keep doing our thing, the Buffalo way, as you will, and I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see it happening. He's already on a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial, which was one of the biggest crimes against Buffalo in the world.
Really?
Because we all know it's not the real deal. Buffalo Wild Wings is, unfortunately,
we have those out here. So yes, you're right.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Mean, just it's an absolute shame. I understand it. Obviously, if a sponsorship deal presents itself to me and it's like, oh, Buffalo Wild Wings, why not? Yeah, I'll take that deal. But deep in his heart, he knows that Barville is the best area to get wings in the world. So it was just it was a tough thing to watch. But yeah, who knows? Sky's the limit for the guy.
Yeah, so true. You're right. And sometimes those commercials, maybe they take the focus away a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Are they shooting those during the off season? Are they?
No, it's usually off season.
Yeah. So. But anyhow, it's just I mean, I'm trying to think back to the Jim Kelly days, and did I see him on a lot of big commercials? And back then I was local to Buffalo, but I will tell you, being out here in California, I don't see Josh Allen, and we have Buffalo Wild Wings out here. I don't see any of his commercials. But I think you're going to start seeing him nationally on more commercials than we might have before. He's just such a likable guy, great personality. So. Good for him and good for Buffalo.
Absolutely. You know what's good too? His humility. I think for a guy like that to be as good as he is, to be larger than life pretty much, I mean, he still remains humble. You know, I heard a story from the guy that I work out at his gym, Ben Wood, shout out to him. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he was telling me that Josh Allen's girlfriend actually goes to their church. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And I said, has Josh ever gone? And he said, I think he has talked about going, but he also doesn't want to be a distraction, you know, to take away from if he goes to the church, then people are going to pay more attention to him than the sermon or whatever it is, you know? So I think that's pretty cool for a guy like that to, you know, just remain humble throughout this whole process. It's just awesome. And it's all Buffalo. That's what it's all about right there. So I just love it. And he keeps working. He keeps grinding. I know he's already back training in California. So he was having a little fun now. He was whining and dining with Christian Kirk not too long ago. Sam Darnold, people speculating he's going to be QB2 for us now, Mike.
Oh,
A lot of good
interesting.
stuff. Yeah.
I see Big Al out in the channel, and Big Al says, Mike, your background looks awesome. Yes, I've upgraded my background. It's about time.
Yeah, that looks good, Mike.
I had these things for a while. I just needed to take the time and get them hung up. And my wife came in. She's like, you need one more where you have the Bills, the Braves, and the Sabres. You need one more up top. So I've already talked to Jake about getting me one more sign.
We'll hook you up. Definitely.
Absolutely. Also, Big Al, we got a new setup going on. I got a little bit of a change on my computer. So let us know if the sound's okay. Let us know if everything looks good to you. We'd love to get that little check from you. So, all right, let's move on here to what the show is going to be about. Today we're hopefully going on a shopping spree for free agents. Before doing so, we're going to have to free up some cap space, Jake. We're just going to have to.
Yep.
And we're going to have to do that through some creative and tough decisions. So you and I, Jake, we're going to have to put our love for the players aside and put on our business caps, right? And we're going to have to talk some business because in the end, the NFL is a business, right?
Unfortunately, it is.
Right.
Yes.
And depending on what source you're looking at, we're either a little under the cap, 4 to 5 million, or we're actually a little over the cap, a couple million over the cap. So once we free up some spending money, we're going to spend that money to re-sign some Bills players that are unrestricted and restricted free agents. Hopefully they don't want to leave us, and they're not priced out of the market. And then we'll target some free agents that Jake and I would love to see the Bills go after. And then finally, we're going to get a little crazy, Jake. You and I are going to get a little crazy with some trade ideas for some big name players. I invite all of you in the channel. Come on, please. All of you in the channel, share your thoughts as we move through the show. As you folks always have great ideas. I always love to see what the channel brings to the show, Jake. So before jumping into that and trying to free up some cap space, I want to talk to you about the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Rams. Last year, going into the new year, they were $37 million over the cap, Jake. $37 million. Within a day, they restructured contracts, and not only they were then, but they freed up $46 million in cap space. So they're now $9 million under the cap. So the point of that, I mean, yeah, they did Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. They had Robert Woods, Jalen Ramsey. They all restructured their contracts to get there. And there was another player in the mix there. And they probably did some other creative things. But the whole point that I'm bringing this up is if Bean wants to, he can get creative, and nobody knows how to do this better than Bean. He can get super creative and free up cap space. And we can go after one of these big players. Now, unfortunately, I mean, everything I've read, what I've heard is that Bean says we're not going to be making any huge plays during free agency. And I hope that's just him talking, and maybe
could be him just blowing smoke, honestly,
smoke.
Mike. You never know. He's always got something going on in the back of his mind. So you just don't know.
Right. And so I wanted to ask you this, Jake, and I'll put this out to the channel. Like, if you had a chance to get a Super Bowl now, like the Rams did, the Rams went after it, man. They put out, they restructured some things. And Jake, remember, the cap is typically going to go up every year as revenues grow, which they should. They have some big television deals that they're going to be working on or restructuring soon. Every year that cap should go up. So typically when folks restructure, right, they're getting a big signing bonus. You actually restructure with the signing bonus because you can take that signing bonus and then split it up evenly for the remainder of their contract, right? And so that's a huge way, and a lot of folks are doing that. So you might worry, like, we're going to backload all this salary, but with that cap going up every year, I think you take the risk. So my question to you and the channel is, if you had a chance to get a Super Bowl right now and you risked being, I don't know, competitive for the next 5 to 10 years, let's say 10 years, you risk that just slightly, which I don't think you're going to. Would you go after the Super Bowl and get it now, sort of like what the Rams did? Or would you say, no, I want to be competitive, Mike, for the next 10 years. I don't care if I don't win a Super Bowl. To me, I want that Super Bowl now. I don't care if you're going to the playoffs. I don't care if you're going to the AFC championships. I want that Super Bowl. Been way too long. We're overdue. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's amazing how the mindset has changed over the last 5 years. 5 years ago at this time, we would just be grateful to make a playoff appearance. Now the expectation is we're getting that Lombardi trophy. The last 2 Super Bowl champs, the Rams and the Bucks, have went all in. So I think we got to do the same thing. And honestly, Mike, we're not that many players away from being a Super Bowl champion team. I mean, really, this year should have been the year.
Yeah.
But you look at it, maybe we add one more piece. Maybe we spend a little bit of money, we get one piece, and that's the guy that puts us over that hump. So I think we go all in. We'd be aggressive. We re-sign the guys we need to re-sign, but target those free agents too. You have to be realistic, but at the same time, I think players are more willing to come to Buffalo and play for us because now we have a team that's going to compete, a team that has Josh Allen at quarterback. Guys love Josh Allen around the league. So I think our chances are better than ever right now. I feel good about it. Big Baller Bean's going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. All right, well, let's put that business hat on. Jake, we got some tough decisions to make right now, okay? We need it. In order to get on that shopping spree, we got to free up some money. So let's talk about how we can potentially do that. All right, so it starts with possible cuts. Guys that are in their last year of the contract, and we could have a huge savings if we were to cut them right now. Now, remember, every guy we're going to have to cut here, if we do make the decision to cut him, we're going to have to pick that position up somewhere, whether it's in free agency or in the draft this year. So let's start. Top of the board, and you might be surprised that I put him on here, and I'll talk to you about that in a second here, is Mitch Morris. You know, Mitch Morris right now, he's set to make $11,250,000 this year. He's going to be the 4th highest paid at that position. If we were to cut him, his dead cap is $3,750,000.
Right.
You know, and I'll tell you why I threw Mitch on here. I was, doing my research. I found this guy who had an article, so I won't take credit for this. But he said, hey, if the Bills were to cut Mitch Morris, that frees up about $800 million in cap space, right? He then suggested that we go after New Orleans Saints center Eric McCoy, who's in his last year of his contract, making about $3.5 million. So you cut Mitch, you save almost $8 million. You spend $3 to $4 million on Eric McCoy.
Eric Flowers, former Bill, though. Shout out to him.
I'm like, it's coming to my mind.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. So Eric McCoy from the Saints, and the Saints are $75 million over the cap, Jake. So they're going to be looking to offload. Now it's not a huge savings, $3.5 million, but they also don't have to worry about restructuring his deal. Right? He's in the last year of his contract, and if you look at PFF, and you believe PFF, he's graded slightly higher. There's him, and then there's Mitch Morris right under him. He's actually a few years younger as well.
24 years old. I just looked it up because I knew he was young.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was that young. I thought he was maybe 26 or something. 24. That's crazy. Now,
it's hard taking a guy that's worked with Josh and who's the centerpiece of that offensive line. And I felt, throughout the year we struggled, right? The offensive line trying to find that right chemistry. We finally found it towards the end of the year, and they were stellar, I felt. Talk to me. I mean, got the business hat on. What are you thinking here?
I think it's a smart move. It would be a good move. But the other side of me, the emotional side, is saying, man, Mitch Morris, he finished up the season so well. I mean, we were talking about that guy on a weekly basis because of how good he was playing. Just the ability to get to the second level, the ability to do things that a lot of centers in the league can't do. It was just impressive how he ended off the year. And I personally want to keep him. I know it's a big hit to our salary, and maybe if we do get rid of him, we end up getting Eric McCoy. It's basically just flopping in, A for B, and it's not even really a drop off, in my opinion. I mean, we're going younger there. Now, Mitch Morris obviously has the chemistry on the offensive line, which we started to really see towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
But the center position, there's something to be said about that too, where you're the captain of that offensive line. So he has the respect of all of his teammates around him. We bring in a new guy. It might disrupt chemistry a little bit. You could have some issues there. I think Eric McCoy is a very solid player, but if it's me, I want to keep Mitch Morris. I really do.
Yeah.
I do like your thought process.
The whole point of that is just getting creative, right? These GMs can get super creative. And again, I don't want to lose Mitch, that chemistry. And again, I'm trying to put my love for the players aside right now.
I know.
but it's an option. And I think I have Mitch on my next slide. I added him here late, but we'll talk about possible restructure, which could help us out there as
No,
well.
I think I like that option.
All right,
I
so
do
we'll
like
talk
that
about
option.
that in a second. So I think we're in agreement. As much sense as that makes, you're not guaranteed that the Saints are going to deal with you. You're just not
Right.
guaranteed. So that's just like making
New coach too, Dennis Allen. Maybe he
yeah,
does want to get rid of some guys though too. So you
yeah.
just don't know.
Well, they're going to
I
have
mean,
to
he's not
do.
really a new coach, but yeah.
They're going to have to do some magic to get under the cap. We'll see. All right,
Mhm.
let's go further here. We got Cole Beasley. We're to cut Cole right now. He's a $7.6 million hit against the cap. If we cut him, we free up pretty much a little bit over $6 million. Jake, this is a tough one. I'll let you start with this.
You know how near and dear to my heart Cole Beasley is. I've loved Cole ever since he started in this league, and he's just been he's been a tough, gritty player. He's very reliable. I think he's been great for the Bills over the years. Last year we saw what we could do without him in the offense, though, too. And he's not getting any younger. Obviously, no one's ever getting any younger. But you saw what we did without him in the offense. While I do think he's a valuable piece, I think we could do other things to alleviate the loss of Cole. So I am actually a proponent of cutting him. I don't love saying this because, like I said, it's near and dear to my heart, but the business side of me says maybe we cut him. We can get some money back. I mean, he's, that's kind of a big hit right there. I think out of all these players, that's the guy you're probably going to be cutting. However, Brandon Beane did say that his plans do involve bringing Cole Beasley, keeping him on the team. He never said that he was going to get rid of him or anything like that. So it does sound like he wants to keep him, but I'm kind of more in the arena where we just cut him.
Yeah, if we are looking for cap space, I agree. It is hard to say that. Our love for the players, Cole Beasley. I mean, that guy has great hands.
Yeah,
great hands. He's always yards after the catch. He's always making those, and he's a safety valve for Josh. It's hard to see him going, but you did see that, right? He's been injured the last couple of years. Towards the end of the season, he gets dinged up. What player doesn't? But he's a smaller player, getting older. Seems like that's hitting him more and more. That's a tough one, but to free up some space for us to go spend some money. I'm gonna agree with you there, Jake. That's a tough one.
I think that's the move you make, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. All right, Big Al. Love all that you're saying in the channel. We're gonna get to all those, and you're saying everything that I think we're aligned with. So you'll see when we get to that portion. Yeah. Love those ideas. All right, we're gonna move to John Feliciano. Right, not a big savings here, but if we were to cut him, we're going to be saving about $3.4 million against the cap. So, what's your thoughts on Feliciano?
So this falls right into the same category as Cole Beasley. I think he brings some attitude to the offensive line. He's done well for us, but this year again, he wasn't really in the game. I mean, we kind of phased him right out, and Ryan Bates came in and took over that position and did a fantastic job. So I think we cut John Feliciano. We re-signed Ryan Bates.
I agree, and I think your targets are kind of filling that void. I think you have one of your targets to fill that void. Remember, everyone we cut here, we're going to have to either sign through in free agent or get him through the draft. So I have to agree with you on that one. He wasn't starting by the end of the year, and that's a pretty good saving. So let's go.
And you see the big 3-0 on his age right now. A lot of people, once you see that 30, and you're debating on whether keeping a guy or cutting him and going younger.
Yeah,
it's usually that one right there, that choice.
Now here's a tough one. I mean, the next guy up in line here is AJ Klein, right? He's a $5.5 million hit against the cap. If we were to cut him, $400,000 dead cap. So we're freeing up basically $5 million if we were to cut him. That's a tough one. I love AJ Klein. What he brings, I mean, he's probably the best run stopping linebacker that we have on the team. And now he has some, he's not the best cover guy, but I mean, I'll start with this one. For me, it really depends on what we do in free agency, because you're going to see some of my targets. If we were to go and hit on some of my targets, then he's expendable, in my opinion. If we don't, I want him around, and I'm not going to spoil it, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. I have some ideas there. So for me at this point, I'm going to say we keep him, but later on when I talk about other things, it may be a potential cut. So I'm sorry, I'm on the fence there, but you'll see why it'll all pan out when we get to it later on.
Near and dear to your heart, Mike. Yeah, I understand it. It's tough. It gets a little emotional. I mean, I think out of any franchise out there, Chris, shout out to you. I know the Ravens, you guys got a great fan base, but and I I think we're kind of in that same arena where it's like you build this emotional bond with these players. You want to keep these guys, but at the end of the day, Mike, it's a business and it sucks. But this is another guy where I'm thinking maybe we just part ways.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and I think the reasoning for that is we did resign Terrell Dodson, who is I think he's a pretty good player who can come in. We could plug and play. He has starting experience, so he's also younger. Another guy that's younger that could come in, fresh legs, and he's actually better in coverage too. So I think we cut AJ, and I hate saying that because he's such a good energy guy and actually led the team in sacks 2 years ago, which is ridiculous. We haven't had a 10-sack guy since 2016 with Lorenzo Alexander. So we got to figure that out too at some point. But yeah, okay. I think we got to.
All right. So you can see we're starting to free up some cap space here. We're getting some spending money. And so the next one is Star. Now Star Lutuele, who I was a huge fan of earlier in the year. He struggled later in the year, it seemed. I know he had an injury at one point. And but he's $9.2 million to the cap, and we don't save much if we were to cut him because the dead cap would be $7.7 million. But again, here's a way to get creative. Now this doesn't help you for the deadline. That's March 16th, where all the teams have to be at the salary cap. But it could potentially help you later, right before, maybe sign somebody, maybe one of your, typically they'll have already signed their draft picks. But here's the deal. On June 1st, June 2nd, I think it is, if you were to cut a person, you wait that long to cut them, you're now able to take that dead cap and split it for 2 years. So we can essentially cut that $7.7 million in half and extend that for 2 years. So there's a nice big savings to the cap. But again, it's in June. You've already had the big free agency spend. I'm not sure what you do with that other than maybe
at that point it's all leftovers too. So it's
exactly.
It's a different story then too.
Right.
Yeah.
Then Cody Ford, it's not a big savings, but I know a lot of people are kind of fed up with this guy. $1.5 million would be saved on the cap if we were to cut him. Your thoughts on that?
Well, so first off, I think, Star, I feel like we're both in agreement. We're going to get rid of Star.
Yes.
Okay. Plus, with how Harry Phillips played toward the end of the year, I thought
we're going to need some. Fantastic. We're going to need some money for him.
Right. Exactly. So I think definitely cut Star. Cody Ford. I mean, people were calling for his head 2 games into the year. I think it's a no-brainer. We're not saving a ton of money, but probably a guy that's going to get cut. Yeah. Inevitably.
All right. Jake, is there anyone else that you were thinking about that could potentially be cut and could give us some nice savings there?
I actually didn't look into this one specifically, and Mike, I love punters. I do, and my dad mentioned out of the players that we need, O-line, corners, punters, maybe a running back. I don't know what the deal would be if we cut Matt Hack, however you want to say it. But we thought we were getting an upgrade there over Corey Bajorquez, and it just did not pan out. We saw it towards the end of the year. He really struggled, and I'm not sure what the reasoning was for it. I know he punted in some really bad weather games. He was, punting in Miami before that, so he wasn't really used to it. But I think that would be maybe another guy to potentially consider, although I don't exactly know what the cap hit would be with him.
Gotcha. All right, well, so this is one way. Potentially cutting. We've already freed up some space by doing that. Again, we know we're going to have to spend that money to get, we're going to have to get these positions back. But another way that, and by the way, Big Al, if you're watching, Chris, you're out there. Chris, you're right. Bite the bullet and sign draft.
Yeah, I like that, Chris.
Running back. There's another way that we can free up some cap space, and that is through restructuring deals. And Big Al, watch this. I have a new transition, some new tech here. Let me know what you think. Here we go. Let's switch over to the new
here we go. Here. By the way, Mike, I just want to talk about another punter too. Once we're done to,
very subtle little transition, but hey, we're doing all kinds of things to up the level of this production. So before we get into the restructure and the extension possibilities, you said you wanted to talk about something real quick?
I do. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
going back to the punter position, my dad, he mentioned, hey, we need a punter. And I'm all for that. And I mentioned the Matt Hack thing. There's a kid out of San Diego State. This year for specialists is absolutely incredible. The kicker's coming out, the punter's coming out. It's a big year. The Bengals, they draft Evan McPherson in the 5th round. Now, kickers and punters, they're I guess not really one and the same, but they're both very important. There's only one on each team. There's a kid named Matt Araiza out of San Diego State with an enormous leg. The guy is an absolute stud. Maybe we take a chance on him in the draft. That's just another thought too. Cut Matt Hack, take a punter in the draft.
Well, I know you have access to Spot Track and PFF.
Yes.
Maybe Spot Track. Maybe you can look them up real quick.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, actually.
I don't want to get into too many of my screens because I got so much going on, and I'm always fearful being a producer that I'm going to hurt something here. But maybe you can take a look and see what that might save us. So here's some other big ways. Again, remember at the top of the show, I mentioned how the Rams did it. The Rams were $37 million over the cap with 1 day to go where they had to get to the cap or under. They shed $46 million. So, and they did that mostly through restructuring contracts. I'm giving extensions to guys. Obviously, when you restructure a contract, the typical way they do it is they'll give a lot of signing bonus money, and that signing bonus money can be split over the remainder of the contract. So you got Dion Dawkins set to make $12.7 million.
Yeah.
Dead cap is 10.7, so there's no reason to cut him. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But you restructure that contract. You give a lot of that to a signing bonus, and then split that over the remainder of his contract. Huge savings there. Mitch Morris, I know I had him on the other side, but I have him here. Restructure that deal as well and get that down. So there's potentially, I'm going to say 6, and then there's going to be about, I don't know, 11. So 11 or 12 million, if I'm doing my math right, if you restructured it properly. And then Micah Hyde as well. Micah Hyde sent to make $10.2 million. So right there, you restructure those 3 contracts, and there are others. I've only put some of the big ones on there. I think Trey White is set to make some ridiculous amount of money this year as well. So you restructure this, and all of a sudden you freed up a lot of cap space.
Are we at 50 million or so right now, Mike?
I don't know if we're quite there yet.
Between the cuts, the restructuring, we might be getting close. I mean, we're moving our way up.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole point of this, again, I've said it before, is that, and we're not experts at this. We don't know all the loopholes when it comes to restructuring deals and all the rules as far as the cap goes. But we know that Bean is a master at this. So if he wanted to, and Jake, you and I were talking about this at the before the show kicked off, he could free up enough cap space to go after a big time player in the free agent market.
Right.
Everything's saying that he's not going to do that, and it breaks my heart to hear that. And again, I hope he's just kind of playing it low and he makes a big deal. Like a couple of years ago, weren't we in the hunt for J.J. Watt? Weren't we going after him? It was
definitely a rumor. Yes, we were.
So I'm sure we were a player there, and I believe we should be a player in a couple of these things. A couple of these players that are going to be available. So again, restructuring, we can probably bring up a few other players, but there's ways to get it done. You agree?
I absolutely agree, Mike. I just based on what we've been talking about so far, I'm feeling a lot better about the situation. I think when you talk it out like this, you realize, hey, we're not that far off right now. And hearing what the Rams did last year, that's also helps a little bit with the mindset, because looking at us right now, you think, how the heck are we going to re-sign all these players and then maybe target 1 or 2 guys that can really put us over the hump? But now that we're talking this through, restructuring some deals, maybe cutting a few players that are, up in age that are kind of a big hit.
Yeah.
This could work out.
Yeah. So now let's take that money, and we're going to, again, stay with us, because we're going to talk about some of these big free agent targets that Jake and I have in mind. But we have to take care of business in-house first, right? We have some folks, and let me switch over to that. We have some folks.
Chris is giving us some running back names already too, by the way.
Chris, I thought about Connor. I really did. He's been a little injury prone recently, and that's why he didn't make my free agent target. But I did look at him, and I did take a big look at him for sure. His touchdown, I mean, he's a touchdown machine,
ridiculous.
right?
Yeah.
And he's a good receiving back as well. So I forget what what PFS was projecting him to kind of be getting on the free market. So again, I agree, Chris. Potential. I wouldn't be disappointed if the Bills target him. I just don't have him on my target, and I know Jake doesn't right now either. We kind of limited our targets. Obviously, if we would went 6 or 7 targets, Jake, he probably would have made that list. But you and I
have some honorable mentions, which he does fall into that list.
We'll let you have the honorable mentions, but Jake and I made it so that we had to target only 4. We had to only go after 4, so we limited ourselves. Again, Jake will give him an honorable mention. So right there with you, Chris. All right, we got to take care of some business. We have unrestricted free agents, and we have restricted free agents. Of these guys, and we'll go through each one of them. This is a tough one. Again, putting the business hat on. Jerry Hughes. Let's start with Jerry Hughes. Now, everything I'm reading, he's up there in age. PFF, or I think Spot Track was saying he's going to warrant about $4 million, maybe a 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal, $4 million a year. I think this all depends on what we do. Are we able to go out and get another veteran stud and one of these big free agent targets? If we don't, I don't mind bringing Hughes back for $3 to $4 million. So that's a tough one for me. Again, to me, it depends on, because we need some experience, right? We need a veteran player. We need that leadership. Hughes has been with us, and I'm curious. I'm trying to get inside of Jerry Hughes' mind. He's like, damn, we're so close to winning a Super Bowl. I can win my first Super Bowl, and you're gonna let me go? No, I want to come back to you guys. And here's the deal. You give me $3 or $4 million, I'm good. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Jake?
He could take a hometown discount. He signs maybe a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, something like that. But if it's anything north of $4 or $5 million, I just don't think it can happen. The production hasn't been there. He hasn't had a 10-sack season since 2014. I will say this, though. We won that damn trade between the Colts and the Bills. Kelvin Shepard for Jerry Hughes. My gosh. I mean, we smoked them in that deal. So hats off to that old regime. They did one good thing, and it was Jerry Hughes. But you know what? The production just hasn't been there. As a defensive end, if you want to get paid, you got to get home. And he just hasn't been able to do that. He's always up there in pressures, which is crazy. Yeah. But how much do you really acknowledge the pressures over actual production? If you're not getting there, you're not getting there, plain and simple. So I feel like at this point, if he's not willing to take maybe like a hometown discount or something like that, we just got to let him walk. And I like Jerry Hughes a lot. He's done a lot of great things. That 2014 season was incredible. We had 80 sacks or something like that under Jim Schwartz when he was our D coordinator. I mean, we were just monsters, and Jerry Hughes was a huge piece of that. But man, I just feel like every year it's kind of gone down a little bit more, just decreasing his ability to play. And, I just feel like right now at this point, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I think he only had like 2 sacks last year. And I think I kind of joked a few times last year. The only time I'd ever see him is when he's chasing people down the field. And, right. And again, though, it is crazy. If you look at PFF and where he ranks, they rank the guy high because apparently
something like that.
He apparently gets a lot of pressures. And again, that's a subjective thing. I don't know. I don't
Pressures
know.
are important. Sacks are better.
Sacks are better. But you mentioned like we haven't had a 10-sack guy. And with our current scheme, the way we rotate guys in, nobody gets more than 50% of the snaps. I don't know if we stay with that. I don't know if we're going to have a 10-sack guy. And if we do, oh my God, this guy's a stud. He should be on the field the whole time because he's only getting half the snaps. I certainly hope that we change that trend, and maybe losing some of these veterans might help that case. Because we need the Boogie Bashams, we need the Russos, we need the Epinesses to play more than that 50% of the snap count. I mean, we just need that to start happening. And hopefully one of these big target guys that we're going to sign. I'm feeling good. We're going to sign one of these guys. We freed up enough cap space. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Right. So Mario Addison, he was the most productive of these 2 veterans. He had 7 sacks last year. Pretty darn good for only getting 50% of the snap count.
Right.
What do you think? I mean, again, another guy who's up there in age, probably gonna be commanding $4 to $5 million 1 year, 2 year deals.
Mhm.
What's your thought on Mario?
That's another guy, he kinda falls in the same boat, Mike. He's been a really I think he's been a pretty good signing. He's been a good veteran presence in the locker room. Has put up okay numbers too. I mean, really, 7 sacks, like you said, with the rotation that we had, I don't think any guy played over 52% of the snaps or whatever it was. So, um, yeah, I think that's another guy you gotta maybe consider the hometown discount, but if it's anything more than that, just let him walk. We gotta stay I mean, we're young at that position right now. We have Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, and then we also still have Boogie Basham, who a lot of people are up in the air with, and I think people wanna see him on the field.
Yep.
So, and I think we're one piece away, and it's at that defensive end position, and if it's between Mario Addison, Jerry Hughes, and then like a big name stud, I think we got to go for the big name instead of those two. We need a guy that could play there 100% of the time and then maybe rotate the rest. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So I agree with you there, Jake. The only thing I would say is if we're not able to land one of these big free agent targets, I'm hoping we can bring one of these veterans back. I just think we need that veteran leadership on the team, and
That's fair. Yeah.
preferably for me. And again, this is probably my love for the players, probably Hughes, just because he's been there for so many years with the Bills. But
Yeah.
again, this only
2011 or
depends if
2012.
we're unable to land one of those other big players. So then we got Vernon Butler. I mean, we can be quick here. I don't see any reason to go back after him.
Yeah, that's such a disappointing one too because he was a first round pick back in 2016 and when we got him, I was really excited. I thought that we could really change the landscape of his career and he didn't even play that bad with the Panthers, but it just didn't really work out. He wasn't on the field enough. He was too injury prone and for the amount of money that he's probably going to still command, it's just not worth it in my opinion.
I agree. Emmanuel Sanders, I say no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sanders, last year.
Hell of a beginning of the year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he got injured. Production dropped towards the
That
end.
knee injury was just like the nail in the coffin, unfortunately.
Right. So I agree there. Mitch, I would love to sign. All right. I would love to re-sign Mitch, but I think there's no way in heck he's not going to get a huge offer from some team out there. I just really think so.
I've already heard a few teams. Tampa's a team that's in the mix. Even Detroit, they were saying that was a potential. He's used to the NFC North. Indianapolis, that's been another team. So there's a lot of teams out there. I think he could actually go and start maybe. Even New Orleans, that's another team.
Oh, absolutely. I think wherever he goes, he's going to be a starter. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get the showcase of talent except for the preseason game against the Bears. Do you remember that early in the year?
And he killed it.
So that was his audition. Obviously, the arm strength's there, the athleticism's there. You can kind of maybe forget about his years in Chicago because he just didn't put a good team around.
He makes any quarterback in Chicago right now. I mean, he looks like a saint. I mean, compared to what's been happening over the years in Chicago since it was only been 1 year since he left. But man, what we saw this year out of them, it was an absolute train wreck. So he actually looks good compared to these other guys that have been in there. So.
Yeah, I agree. And he learned a lot. I mean, working with Josh, how cool is that? And seeing what he was able to do. So his confidence level is high, and he's going to get a good deal. If we could re-sign him, yes, I want to re-sign him. But it's not going to happen.
I can't see it happening. Big year for him, too. He's having a kid this year, so
awesome.
Might be starting on a new team, having a new baby, maybe big old house. Who knows? He gets a paycheck, big payday.
Yep.
Excited for the guy.
I agree. And then this will be a tough one for you. I know. Ike Bucker, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He's coming off another big injury. This is twice now. What's the injury? Was it ACL? What was the injury?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't an ACL.
No ACL?
Let me pull it up.
I forget what it was.
But I actually forgot too. Yeah.
He's had 2 big injuries now, and you don't know what you're going to get here.
He's a good offensive lineman.
He was playing.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, when he's in the game, he's very good rotational guy. I think he's there for depth right now. I don't think he's going to be a starting guard for us. He's still going to be like that rotational guy.
Yeah.
But the nice part about him is that you could plug and play pretty much anywhere. So I like him a lot. I want to bring him back if we can.
All right. Well, I mean, I forget what Spot Track was saying he would command. But I mean, coming off of 2 big injuries, I can't believe it's going to be that bad. Too big of a contract. It's going to be able to bring him back.
It was an Achilles, by the way.
Achilles,
so that's a tough injury. That's a really tough injury. Yeah.
So I'm on the fence there. I mean, again, and then I feel like he's had Achilles injuries twice now, right?
So it was, let me think. So the first one, this is bad that we're talking about multiple injuries. So this is definitely something to factor.
Exactly.
27 years old, few season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
And it's actually not telling me what it was.
That's all right. I'm pretty sure.
This past one was Achilles.
I know there was 2 season-ending injuries. I want to say it was the same. I read that somewhere, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyhow, your dad's out there saying, I think a lot of players want to come here because we are a Super Bowl team. They may want to actually take less money. I agree.
That's what I'm thinking too.
But then I say that all the time, and then I'm like, it's a business. For me,
right.
I definitely factor in the money, right? If it can't be too big of a savings, right? I have to feed my family, have to pay for my bills, and it is a business. So I agree with you, Big Al. But it is a business in the same.
As long as we can get a competitive contract, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what they want.
Yeah.
I think players will consider it just for that reason alone, because apparently we have one of the best facilities in the league too, which is pretty cool to think about. It's brand new facility over there. So the training facilities, everything, players have been raving about that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, I'm sorry. I saw you say probably a 1 year, $3 to $4 million. I think you were talking about Connor, and I don't know. I felt that was a lot more basically what PFF was projecting. PFF
$6.5 million or something like that.
So I mean, sure, if we can get him for $3 to $4 million, I'm all over that. But that was another reason that he wasn't on my list, is because I think it was quite a bit that they were projecting that he was gonna
Pro Bowl season 2. He's got some leverage with that. So
So here's a big one here, Jake. Probably the biggest we're talking about so far.
Yeah,
Mr. Levi Wallace. Now, according to PFF, he's going to demand around $6 million on the open market, maybe even a little bit more. And we obviously have Trey White coming back, but we don't know what version of Trey White we're going to get. Season-ending injury. It might take him a while into the season to get back to the level he was at. Levi Wallace was, he was cornerback 1 for us while Trey was out. Did a pretty damn good job, I would say.
Yeah.
Are you going to pay this guy what he deserves, $6 million, or are you going to move on and go after somebody else?
Yeah, I actually really want to bring him back, Mike. This is the guy that I've been the most critical on out of any player on this team, and he showed me something. So I want him back. I know he's going to be asking for a lot of money. The good news is, if we can't bring him back, this year's cornerback draft class is pretty strong. So I feel like we can actually get a pretty good value player at that 25th pick. So if we can't get him, it is what it is. It sucks. It's business. Then maybe we actually go all in and try to get a guy like J.C. Jackson. There's a chance, And if we're not going to be able to pay Levi, if he's asking for too much, then maybe we go for a big name stud, or we take a guy in the first round. So there's a couple options there. If it's me, I'm going to try to re-sign him though. I think he's worth the money. I do.
So there is a guy, you mentioned one of the big ones, J.C. Jackson, but there's a Dante Jackson as well.
Yeah.
Right. And the guy runs a 4.3 speed like no other.
Fast as hell. Yeah.
Right. And he's out there.
Tarvarius Ward. There's another name.
He's out there as well. So the benefit of re-signing Levi, obviously he knows our system. He's comfortable in the system. He's worked with the team. The chemistry's there, right? You lose a guy like this, you lose some chemistry. If we were to lose him and we didn't get one of these top guys, could Dane Jackson fill in? What'd you think of Dane Jackson's short audition last year when he had to come in and play?
I thought he did a good job.
Right. It seemed to be, right? It appeared. Except for 13 seconds. I don't know. I'm blaming Levi Wallace.
That's not him. That's coaching. I think that's more coaching than anything. I mean,
we won't get into that, but you can see I'm still not over it fully. But Levi Wallace, yes, $6 million. That's a tough one. Again, I'm gonna say you give him the money, unless you want to save that money and go after one of these big targets. Now, you and I, strangely enough, didn't put one of those big targets, so big corners, on our list because we were limiting to 4. But maybe we already talked about a couple honorable mentions, right? Dante Jackson and J.C. Jack. J.C. is going to be asking for a lot more than Dante, but anyhow, couple options there. And maybe you have others on your honorable mention list there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a couple guys. It'll be interesting, Mike.
Yeah. Then you got Taiwan Jones,
Yeah.
who I know you're a big fan of, aren't you?
I love Taiwan Jones. He was actually a killer for us when he was with the Texans in that playoff game, if you remember. And then we got him back the next year, and he's been nothing but great. He's a special teams ace.
Mm-hmm.
However, we just re-signed Saran Neal. Some people say Saran, some people say Saran. He's been great. He's a special teams ace himself. And I think what's cool about him is we're going to try to get him more involved in that nickel package, because I think that's where we really went wrong actually against the Chiefs, was not having him shadow or cover or jam at the line with Travis Kelce. He did such a good job that first game, and just to go away from that makes zero sense to me. So I think maybe the coaches realize, his value there. He's a bigger corner too. So we did re-sign him, and it was kind of a big deal. It was like 3 years, $10.9 million up to. A lot of people are pretty upset with that, because they think, the value of a special teams player isn't that high. But I think the good thing about him is that he's a, dual-wielded guy where he could play both on special teams and defense. Taiwan Jones is mainly just special teams. Actually, he is only just special teams. He hasn't been involved with the offense at all. He's fast as hell. He's been a really good veteran presence on the team. But we also do have Jake Kumaro, too, who I think we should bring back. If it's up to me, unless he's taken a very minimalistic contract, which I think he probably will. He's not going to command a ton of money or anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a guy.
Yeah, we were paying him 1.7. So
right, so that's not too bad.
But again,
I think maybe not. I think we save that money for other needs. Maybe we take that 1 point whatever he was going to command and put that into Levi Wallace instead.
Correct,
so that's my initial thought there.
All right, and what about FA?
FA, I actually want to bring back. So that's like a veteran guy that, he hasn't been with the Bills a ton, but that was a guy who was starting to get a little more involved towards the end of the year. I think did a pretty decent job. He had a couple sacks, and that's a guy that I'm actually willing to bring back. He's 29 years old. He's been in the league for quite some time. He's had a nice career. He has a very interesting career too. He's an international guy. That's definitely a guy that I would like to bring back on a smaller deal, probably maybe 1 or 2 year deal. And I don't think he's going to command too much money either. So I'm all for bringing him back.
All right, I don't mind that move as well. So let's get through the remainder of these. So we got another big decision here. I know you and I both want Isaiah back. We need Isaiah back, in my opinion. My fear is I think he's going to be offered a ton of money. I really do. And I think, isn't he a fan of Dable? Is he like, I felt like there's a good relationship with him. Dable might be coming after him hard as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the Giants cap space situation, but I don't know. Mckenzie it was a weird year for him, right? He was just pretty much being used on special teams, had a few fumbles on kickoff returns, and then they actually deactivate him for at least 1 or 2 weeks. I forget whether it was 1 or 2. Then he came back, had that huge monster game against New England. It was huge. And he really showed that he's just not one-dimensional. Just don't use this guy on kickoff returns. It was weird, though. We did use him a lot more for that jet sweep and gadget plays from that point on. But he didn't play as much as I thought he was going to, because after what he did against New England, guy's a stud. You can rely on him as a receiver, as your third receiver. So I believe I want this guy back. I just hope we can pay him. So whatever, I don't know what he's going to command on the open market. Kind of weird. But are you going to go off of that one game that he did in New England, or are you going to go off the entire season? If you go off the entire season, I'm not sure he's going to command that much on the open market. But if you're looking at that, that audition there against the Patriots, he might command a good $4 or $5 million contract, multiple year contract. So what are your thoughts on Isaiah?
So there was a guy who actually signed with the Giants. It was back in 2015, I want to say. He got a big deal out of them, too. He was with the Cowboys previous to that. His name's Dwayne Harris. He was a receiver, return specialist, kind of similar to Isaiah McKenzie in a way. And the Giants ended up bringing him on, paying him a ton of money, and he didn't do a whole lot for him. So I don't know if the Giants have learned their lesson. They still have it's a little bit different with management there now, but the ownership has remained the same. Now there is Brian Dable, who is very high on Isaiah McKenzie. From what I've seen, there was a little bit of a disconnect between Brian Dable and Sean McDermott and how they wanted to play him in the games and stuff like that. So, obviously, when we designed the game plan around Isaiah McKenzie, I think he could actually be extremely, extremely impactful. And he did a really nice job towards the end of the year. But then he was a healthy scratch for a couple of games too. And I think part of that was just because he was fumbling a lot of the
Yeah.
returns and he had a lot of issues with that. But I think Brian Dable will probably try to go after him. I think he likes him a lot. And that's a guy that is probably on his radar. So we'll probably have to pay $5 or maybe $6 million a year to get him back, in my opinion, just from what I've seen. He's still relatively young. He's a gadget player. He could play offense. I think this year with the receiver market, it's going to be really interesting, especially with guys like Braxton Barrios, a couple other guys. They're going to be demanding a little bit more money than the typical amount that a receiver would make. So I think based on that, he'll probably want more money than we even think, or command more money than we even think. So that's a guy I want so bad, but we're going to be in competition. So it's a
Yeah.
really tough call here, Mike. But
No, that's a tough
if it's
one.
up to me, I'm bringing him back. I think you pony up, get him involved in the offense, make sure you make him a staple, and just roll with it.
If we lose him, if we aren't able to re-sign him, who's going to fill that role? I mean,
Yeah.
you got the rookie Marquis Stevenson last year, who we drafted and has that speed, has that potential, but they used him on kickoff returns, and he just looked lost. I mean, he wasn't
Different player.
It wasn't the same player. Like early in preseason, he was looking fantastic. Then he got injured, and I don't know if he would be that guy. But who do you see filling that role? That's a big role for us. That's a
good question.
It's going to be tough. Anyhow, we don't have to get into that, but that's something to think about.
Yeah, I think especially based on what we do with Cole Beasley too, I think this is going to be very important because Isaiah McKenzie and Cole Beasley, they kind of play the same position on offense, but Isaiah offers a little bit more because you can do some different things with him where,
the speed.
Cole, you couldn't really do. The speed alone is just incredible. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right. All right, I think we can go through a couple of these pretty quickly. Stop me if I'm wrong. Matt Breida, no.
Yeah.
Bobby Hart, no.
Nope.
I will stop at Kumaro because you think we should re-sign him, and I think we can re-sign him for not much.
Yes.
So I would say I agree with you there. Brian Cox Jr., thoughts on him?
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. I'm leaning towards no on that one, but it's not a ton of money, so it's one of those things where I'm not going to be upset if we do re-sign him. But in my opinion, I think we save as much money as we can, and just let him walk.
Okay, I agree with you on that one. Harrison Phillips, here's another big one, right? So Harrison right now made $835,000 last year, and he actually it might have been more, but that was his average, $835,000. He's going to be commanding a big number this year, according to PFF. He's going to be roughly commanding about $6 million a year,
right?
And let's talk about that. So he really started showing up towards the end of the year. Is that enough for you? Want to go pay this guy $6 million, Jake? Did you see enough? I mean, yeah, we loved him. We loved him, but it was really only last three games of the season, 4 games of the season. Talk to me about that one.
So first off, Mike, great players show up in big moments, and Harrison Phillips certainly did that. Secondly, I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass because he was banged up the entire year, pretty much up to that point, and I think he's finally healthy now. So we're starting to see what he can do if he is healthy. I know injuries are always an issue. The best ability is availability. You got to be on the field to make the money. But that's a guy that I want to bring back. I think his play was very impressive. He's a hustle player. He does a really nice job. He's kind of undersized too, which is, it's crazy to think about. These undersized defensive tackles, I don't know what's going on with these guys. Aaron Donald started the trend. Harrison Phillips, I would love to bring him back. I know he's going to command a little bit here, but it's definitely well worth it. He's part of that draft class. He's an important piece. I think that's a guy you got to really focus on and hone in on getting the deal done.
All right, I can agree with you there, and Big L certainly agrees with you as well. Justin Zimmer.
Yeah, that's another guy too. 29 years old. I know he's been injured, and the thing with him though, that is a guy that is just all out. I don't know if you remember 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game, he almost chased down Tyreek Hill which is nuts. I mean, this is a defensive tackle. This is a guy just running full speed, trying to take on Tyreek Hill in a foot race, just taking an angle. I mean, it was unbelievable. But that's the type of energy, the type of commitment, dedication, whatever you want to call it, you're going to get out of this guy. He's going to rehab harder than ever. This is a guy we got to re-sign for
Okay.
sure.
I
No
agree
doubt
with
about it.
I agree
Shout
with you
out
there.
Ferris State.
We talked about Saron Neal. He's already re-signed, so no worries there. I think it's 3 years, up to 10 keywords, up to 10 million.
Right.
So, and like you said, some folks were baffled by that.
Yeah.
I know you're a fan of him. You talked about him last year. You actually wanted to see him playing more on defense, not just on special teams, because he's a little bit bigger. But they didn't seem to take your advice. I don't know why. But we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see more of that, and we'll see. They of course they're closer to the guy. They see him more than we do. They see something in him, and obviously, like you said, he was a stud on special teams. Absolutely, there's no denying that.
And seeing that contract total, you can't tell me they're not going to try to get him more involved on defense. You're not going to just pay a special teams ace that much money and sign him to a multi-year deal like that too. I think there is a plan to get him more involved on the defensive side of the ball, which is good.
I'd be curious to look back and what Steve Tasker made back in his glory days.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually. Yes.
Right.
He's probably making more now doing commercials, doing WGR, whatever it is, than what he made in his entire playing career.
I mean, he was the best special teams player ever. And I know that the salaries weren't anywhere near what they are now, but he did make an impact on offense late in his career. So just curious comparison. That's
Snubbed
all.
again too, Mike.
I know. It is gonna happen, Jake. I know it's gonna happen. Everyone wants it to happen. So I think it will. The next guy, we totally agree. Ryan Bates, your dad mentioned him earlier. Absolutely, bring this guy back.
Yes.
He's a utility guy. He can play center. He can play guard. Hell, he can probably even play tackle if we needed him.
Yeah.
When he came in last year, that team changed. That offensive line, it seemed to be the last missing piece. And they were stellar. They were stellar the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season. And even in that playoff game, the 2 playoff games actually were incredible. So anyhow, I think for sure you pay this guy, bring him back. He's restricted. So, if somebody does give him a big deal, which they might, I don't know if they look closely, they might.
Yeah.
We have the option to match get him back.
Yep.
So I'm totally with that.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
All right. So big L's out there. Bates, definitely. All right.
Have to.
So we took care of business. Sorry, folks. It took us a while. We got a lot of big names, a lot of guys we love, and it's hard to make these decisions whether to bring them back or not. So we did our job. We actually spent some of that cap here. So you're talking about bringing, Phillips back for $6 million. All that cap that we freed up. I don't know, Jake. We spent quite a bit to get some of these guys back, if the guys come back that we want. But again, I'm hoping we still have enough cap to go hit some of these targets that we're looking at. So let's get into that real quick. And this should be fun here. Jake, we're going to start with your free agent targets. And you were more realistic than I am. I'm going to tell you, but you're the X and O guy. And you were actually keying certain positions and guys that weren't going to cost us some crazy amount of money. But you'll see on my slide, and I'll, no secret, for Daryl Patterson, I think for sure is a guy we got to go after. Talk to me about Patterson.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is the ultimate football player. This guy was talking about playing safety at the end of the year, too, for the Falcons. And he had the best line of all time. He said, my mom worked so many jobs for me growing up. The least I can do is play multiple positions on an NFL field or something along those lines. It was something similar to that. And I love that. That's a guy that just loves the game of football. He's going out there doing whatever he can for his team. Hey, Mike, he fits the culture. That's the number one thing we evaluate. Fits the culture. He solidifies 2 different positions on offense, technically, I guess you could call it, a running back and a receiver, which is pretty amazing. You could line him up in the slot. You could line him up outside. He's a hell of a running back, too. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing what this guy has done, the transition he's made. It started a few years back. They just decided, hey, let's put this guy in the backfield. It looks so weird seeing the number 84 carrying the football, but man, he did a hell of a job for the Falcons this year. He's an ultimate football player. He's a return guy, gadget player, and I think really does help the team quite a bit. considering we may have to cut Cole Beasley, considering we might lose Isaiah McKenzie, we need a running back that's like the number one guy. He could be all those things. So this is a guy I want to target very aggressively. I know he's going to command a little bit of money, but not as much as we thought initially. And there were some rumors saying he wants to go back to Atlanta, but I think we make this guy an offer he can't deny. 2 years, $12 million, something like that. Bring him on for a couple of years and just have him do his thing.
Yeah, PFF
that is my number one target for sure.
Yeah, PFF was projecting about $6 million per year, so a 2-year deal. And is he the one who's friends with someone on the Bills? Is there some? Was he the one they were?
Yeah, we already teed it up. We were sending him Buffalo wings.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs.
Okay,
they were teammates in Minnesota, so that also makes sense. I think it's just going to work out. I think this is a guy we gotta go after.
Yeah, totally agree.
No
Absolutely, and what he's asking isn't that bad at all. $6 million. Let's go. Like you said, it fills multiple roles. I'm all in for that. All in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, talk to me about Austin Corbett.
Yeah, Austin Corbett. So this is a guy that was with the Browns and didn't really pan out. He was a second-round pick out of Nevada and just a baby-faced kid. I actually had an opportunity, Mike. So my brother, he went to LECOM. Well, he still goes to LECOM, which is Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. I got that right. He's going for med school, but they had a chance to get some tickets to an open practice for the Cleveland Browns. And this is back in his rookie year, which is kind of cool. It's actually when they were doing Hard Knocks too. So we got to see all the HBO cameras and everything like that. My brother and we got to go down, see the Browns camp. It was like a VIP access thing. Got to talk to Austin Corbett, which is super cool, super fun. Yeah. So little near and dear to my heart. He was a rookie at the time. Signs a ball for us, says, here you go, guys. I hope everything's going well. We had a nice little conversation with him, yada, yada, yada. Then he ends up leaving Cleveland, I think he got traded to the Rams and did a really nice job, actually. Cleveland didn't really work out for him. He got beat a lot. He was very young, very raw to the game. And I think a lot of that just had to do with him there's an adjustment period, right? And he didn't really live up to the standard that they were hoping he would. But he has really changed that around in LA. He's done a fantastic job allowing minimal sacks there. Athletic kid, young kid, a guy that's going to command some money in the free agent market, but I think he's well worth it. Considering we're going to probably let go of John Feliciano. This is if everything works out the way we want it to. Feliciano's gone. I'm thinking, obviously, Cody Ford is going to be gone. We need another guy to fill in that void at the guard position. I don't want Daryl Williams playing there either. I could tell you that for free. So this is a guy that I want to target. I'm thinking like maybe 3 years, $27 million. We're going to have to pay a little bit more. He'll probably command around $8 to $9 million a year. That's my thought there. But definitely a guy to go after for sure.
Yeah, remember, the way they structure these deals, they can structure it heavily with a signing bonus and push a lot of that money to the back. So you can get these guys. Yeah, we're saying big, Cordell, $6 million. We're saying this guy, what was it yearly you were thinking for Corbett?
Around $8 to $9 million. I think.
So between those two, you got $15 million. But the way you structure that contract is front load it with a big signing bonus, so you can, offset that for whatever their contract is. 2 years, cut that in half. So that's a great way. I like that. I really do.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
He's young. He's young. He's proven. I think right now he is in his prime. So this is a guy you go after and just solidify that offensive line. Now you got left tackle Deion Dawkins, left guard Ryan Bates, center Mitch Morris, right guard Austin Corbett, right tackle Spencer Brown.
Oh, man, I love it.
There we go.
I love it. All right, talk to me about Braxton Barrios. I know you mentioned him last year. You're a fan of his. So
I love him. I followed him since the University of Miami, Mike. He's been so damn good. He's finally getting his opportunity as a return guy. He's a slot receiver. This is a younger Cole Beasley, a guy that we got to go after, make it a point. He's going to command a little bit more than he probably typically would in a normal market. I think it's going to be like maybe $7 million. Originally, I had 2 years, $10 million, but that was like probably not. I think $7.5 million they even set up to. So very interesting there, intriguing thing. But he's another guy that can kind of do both. He can do a return thing, or he can play in the slot. He can even play a little outside. He's mainly a slot guy.
Yeah. Great
route runner, tough kid. He's got all you need. So just a nice fill in for Cole, because we're probably, if we're thinking what's going to happen where we cut Cole, it's a good plug and play right there.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then I didn't have, when I asked you for your free agent targets, did
you think I was going to put this guy on my list?
Absolutely, I did.
This is an emotional one for sure.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do you think Fitzpatrick was auditioning when he was at the Bills game in New England, coming there supporting the team with his shirt off? He's like, bring me back, guys? I mean, it feels like that, right?
I think so too. I mean, he's sitting amongst the crowd, no shirt. I mean, he's taking pictures with fans and everything, chugging beers. I mean, that is a Buffalo Bills quarterback if I've ever seen one, Mike. He was already with us, and he did some great things for us. He actually set the franchise record in passing yards, or no, maybe in like a 3-year span because it wasn't the total one.
Okay.
Bledsoe had that, which is crazy. And then Josh obviously broke that, but he was great here in Buffalo. The fans love him. He even says out of all the teams he's played for, the Bills are by far his favorite. He loves the city of Buffalo. It's no more evident than that. I mean, the best thing when we're going into that Chiefs game, everyone's saying, oh, your fan base is a TikTok star and a diva wife, and we have this guy, another team's starting quarterback, cheering us on in the stands, shirt off, grizzly bear guy. He's all Buffalo. We got to make it happen. Mitch Trubisky's probably gone.
Yep.
I think we can get Ryan Fitzpatrick for that veteran minimum 1 year, $2.5 million deal. That's exactly what Mitchell was making this year, which is an absolute bargain. So let's get this guy his ring. Let's sign him. Let's make it happen.
I don't disagree with you. I like the move. I like that a lot. I mean, he's already won the fans over, right?
Oh, yeah.
By going to he was
ticket sales alone. I mean, not that we need help with ticket sales, but my gosh, maybe they go up in price because everyone wants to see Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
him and Josh.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot, Jake. I mean, he's been with the Bills. He kind of, again, he's fan favorite, and we know he can throw the ball. His MO is when he gets a starting gig, excuse me, he'll come in and he'll light it up, and then he kind of tails off. I always say, everyone's talking when he was starting for Miami. I forget what other teams he started with, but they'd always be like, wow, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I go, just wait till the end of the season. Of course, he'd make some big mistakes, but for a backup, I'm all in. Let's bring him. I love it. Let's bring it. All right. So you were very realistic, Jake. Very realistic. We could probably sign all those guys with the cap space we freed up. Me, I just want one of the next 4 guys. I was like, spend all the cap on one of these 4 guys. A little more unrealistic.
I like the approach.
Here we go. Chandler Jones. All right. We've gotten rid of Hughes. I kind of said maybe if one of these don't pan out, we maybe sign him. But I want Chandler Jones. PFF is saying he's going to command 2 years, $16 million per year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Spend it. I want that Super Bowl now. Our window is short, right? We don't know how long that window is going to be open for.
Yeah.
I want that ring now. I want Chandler Jones. This guy's a stud. He's an absolute stud, and he brings that veteran, that leadership that we want. And dude, he's just incredible.
So good.
Incredible off the edge. And his run stopping ability. You get both with this guy. He's a 3-down guy. I want him.
Right.
Go after him. If we're going after J.J. Watt a few years ago, which was even a bigger contract, get in the game for this guy right here, please.
This reminds me of when we went out and signed Mario Williams. We had to pay up for that guy. It was like a $100 million contract.
Oh, huge.
Look what he did. I mean, instant change to that defense. That was 2014. I keep going back to that year, but we were so damn good on the defensive line. We had 3 guys in double digits, and it was all led by Mario Williams. So very similar situation, Mike. I love it.
Yeah. Then I'm going with another edge guy, Hassan Reddick, right?
Okay.
This guy, a little smaller, but he's gotten 23 sacks in the last 2 years. The guy gets it done. He's, they say he specializes in a heavy blitz team. Like, we don't blitz a lot, but he's a playmaker, man. $11 million a year to me is a bargain. Get this guy.
And he's young, too.
He's young. He's super young.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Patterson. I had him on my slide. I'm like, normally I'll take different ones than Jake just to be different. But no, I'm in total agreement with you here. This would be a game changer for the Bills. Absolute game changer because he fits. Dude, he can do kickoff returns if we wanted to.
I know.
Running back, receiver. Heck, he could probably pick quarterback if we needed him. I don't know.
Actually, I think he was an emergency quarterback too. So don't put it past him.
And then I'm going after Agba, Emmanuel Agba from Miami. This guy, the last 2 years, 9 sacks each year, 18 sacks. I'm all over it. These are guys. And again, to me, I would love if we can get Patterson and one of these guys. But if I had to choose, Jake, and I didn't get Patterson, I want one of those other three. Go after it. Make a play. Please make a play. To me, this is that one guy you were talking about. We only need one or two difference makers. And where we lacked last year, obviously we had the number one defense, but when it came time, we still weren't. And we spent so much money in first round and second round picks over the last 2 years going after edge rushers. And I think all our edge rushers are going to be stars. I still think that's going to happen. I think Rousseau, Bassam, and I think Epinesa, although Epinesa, I'm not sure. He's had a couple of years more than Rousseau and Boogie. But I think all of them could be budding stars. And if they get more playing time, I think we'll see those sack numbers go up. Absolutely. I think Rousseau of the three is the biggest star. And I think we're going to see a lot from him this year as well. And then Boogie. But get one of these guys, and it's a whole different game. When the game's on the line, what was your line you just said? Big players show up at big moments.
Great players show up at big moments.
This is what we need. We need one of these great players because they could have made a play. 13 seconds. I see Chandler Jones. You saw what Aaron Donald did, right? Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl. It came down to the last play.
That's right.
And your playmaker got there and hit Burrow and made that play happen. So,
and you know what the best part was? Sean McVay knew it. He knew it. He called. He said, Aaron Donald's getting to him. Yeah, I bet Sean McDermott does the same damn thing, puts all of his faith in Chandler Jones. If we have him, this is hypothetical.
Yep.
We're in a moment like that. You know who's showing up? Chandler Jones.
So I know,
or Hassan Reddick, or one of these guys.
I know I'm going big here, Jake. I know it's based on what Bean's saying, but I'm a fan. And you're like I said, you're more of the X and O guy. You were more realistic, but I'm going big here. Do you think any of these are possibilities? Besides Patterson.
I think the biggest one, I feel like maybe Emmanuel Ogbah. The other two, I don't know. I'm not super confident on. I think another team's going to come in, swoop in, and offer him a ton of money. So it's going to be hard to compete with that. I think realistically, we can maybe think Emmanuel Ogbah, but the other two are going to be tough.
Come on, Jake. I need you to be more positive, man.
Personally, I want Chandler Jones, Mike. I think he's a better fit than all these guys. He's been there. He's done that. He's had one of the most quiet Hall of Fame careers out of anyone, probably since like Simeon Rice, which no one talks about Simeon Rice, but this guy is a stud. We got to go after him. We got to pay him. Pay the man. Do it. There's my positivity for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I needed that. Yeah. I needed that. And again, I'm going to ask the question. Do you want the ring now? Or do you want to risk being competitive for the next 10 years?
I want it now.
I want it now. Please spend the money on one of these guys. Just my opinion. And that's just me as a fan. I've been around through the 4 Super Bowl losses. I've waited long enough. I want to see a Super Bowl before I pass away, Jay. Come on, man. Give me one. I don't want to be in heaven seeing this. I want to be here.
Let's
go. Let's get it done now. The Rams did it. Look what they did. Let's follow suit with that. They traded later in the season. They got Von Miller. And look what he did for them. Big playmaker. He made some big plays through the playoffs.
Yeah. It's amazing what a pass rusher can do. A guy that gets to the quarterback, actually registers those sacks. What that guy does for a defense, juices them up. I mean, just makes the team better. That's why you win games. So, I'm with you, Mike.
All right, folks. This is where it's going to get really fun here. And Jake, this picture's for you. I want you to look at it. I know it's going to take a few seconds to come up, but this is me thinking this is your daughter in about 7 years. And she's going to be just like you. It just came up. You should see it right now on your screen. She's going to be just like you. And she's going to be, when we get to free agency time, she's going to be working hard. She's going to be running through the math, doing all her sciences. She's going to be like, Daddy, I know how we can get Chandler Jones. Daddy, I know how we can get these next 2 guys that we're going to talk about. And she's going to come to you.
It's hilarious.
I pictured your daughter. This is your daughter, man. She's gonna be just like you, Jake. She's gonna be into the Bills. She's gonna be scheming and coming up with ways
that's hilarious.
That we can make these deals happen. So let's talk about the first big deal. This is yours, and I think this is obviously more realistic than mine because again, you're more realistic with your targets. But here we go. Let's take a look at yours. Let's get crazy. This is Jake getting crazy.
This is me getting crazy.
Trey Edmonds and a second-round pick for Danielle Hunter.
Hell yeah.
Talk to me, Jake.
Let's make it happen. Listen, people have been very critical on Tremaine Edmonds. I think the guy still has some value, and I think other teams recognize that around the league. But we're at a point right now where we need to make a move on defense. And is it the biggest loss in the world if we lose Tremaine Edmonds, but then plug in a defensive end who can actually get to the quarterback and register sacks? I think not. So I think we go for this guy. Danielle Hunter, that was actually a really good idea that shout out to my cousin, Nate Geary from WGR. He put it out there on Twitter, and it got me thinking about it. And I'm like, man, why don't we do this? Like, it's brilliant. It makes so much sense in the world. The Vikings are in a spot right now where they have a new coach. They have a defense that's kind of injury prone, a defense that they might be losing Anthony Barr. So that's a guy that can replace Anthony Barr, Tremaine Edmonds. In addition to that, Danielle Hunter, they paid him this massive contract, 5 years, $72 million. And I think he's got 2 years left on that deal, but he's been injured the last 2 years. He had a herniated disc in his neck or something like that. It was something weird. It was a really bad injury it was a season-ending injury in 2020. And this past year, he was banged up. He played 7 games, but still had 6 sacks, which would have been second on our team, which is ridiculous. But this is a guy who's only 27 years old. He has production. He's an absolute stud. We already have the rapport with the Vikings front office. Well, I guess we did. Now I think they have a new front office now, obviously with the new coaching staff and whatnot. But this is another guy that I think we go after, we target, and maybe we make a trade. We're set to pay Tremaine Edmonds like $12.5 million this year.
$12.5 million.
Why don't we spend that money on a stud like this? So you noticed in my top free agents that I wanted to acquire or pick up or sign or whatever it is, I left out a pass rusher, and that's because I want to make this deal happen, Mike. So I think we do it. It's logical to me. We take a corner in the first round. We don't have a second-round pick, but who needs draft picks? The Rams prove that. They haven't had a first-round pick since Jared Goff. So I think we make this happen. This would be great. Tremaine Edmonds second for Danielle.
I love it. I sent you a link yesterday that was talking about maybe it wouldn't even cost this much to get him.
Right.
I'm not going to bring it up right now, but I love that. And before you had mentioned this to me earlier in the week, and I didn't know much about Danielle Hunter, so I did my research. And yes, he's had some injuries over the last 2 seasons, so that's always a concern. But what a playmaker this guy would be! What a difference maker! I'm all in for that. And here's a case where I was saying, like, for instance, so my slide is going to be similar to yours because again, I asked Jake for these and I already did my slides. We have a common theme. You'll see it in a little bit. But if we were to lose Trey Edmonds, okay, we're going to need a middle linebacker. That's maybe where I was like, maybe AJ Klein sticks around. Now,
sure.
He could play that role for a year until we were able to either draft somebody, bring them up, or maybe pick someone else up. I don't know. But that's why I was thinking we'd keep AJ Klein, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But I love this, Jake. Absolutely love it. And
Me too, Mike. I hope it happens.
If you use your dad and you seem to have a lot of connects there in Buffalo. If you guys can get the ear of Bean, please do. Make it happen. Please tell him what are you waiting for? Yeah. We want the Super Bowl now, man.
I know it. And then my dad actually mentioned too, there was a name. So we're talking about replacing a linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch from Dallas. Yeah. That guy, very intriguing name.
But another guy, he's linebacker. Another guy who's been injured. Another guy who's had quite a few injuries. So I'm not sure.
His neck. Yeah, that's why he wears the cowboy collar.
That one's always awesome, a little scary. Now, I'm going to go into mine in a little bit, but I do want to say a couple of things about Trey Edmonds. A lot of the folks, I know we've been hard on him. I've been very hard on him, not only last year, but the year before. And I know a lot of folks are singing the same tune. But some of the shows I watch believe it's the front line not freeing up those linebackers. It's the guys in front of them. I'm not buying into that because I've seen a lot of things where he's just not taking the right assignment, not shooting the gap properly. But of course, if you have a front line, a defensive line, Harrison, Phillips, you got Oliver there, and if they can kind of help get that separation so the linebackers can make plays, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. So I agree. I'm willing to move Edmonds. So I think you and I are in agreement there. Now, the only thing I can say, Jake, is people seem to, for whatever reason, you tell me, I mean, it's obvious, in their contract year, they seem to have the best year ever, right? When players
That's
are in
true.
this contract year, like for instance, in fantasy football, I'm always looking for those sleepers that are in their contract year because I know
Yeah.
they're going to try to put up big numbers. This could be the year he knows he's about to get paid lots of money. He's going to want to be putting up big numbers. And we might miss the boat on that if we get rid of him, but I am willing to take the risk. I've seen enough. So let me get into mine. Mine not so
Excited
realistic. Here we go.
here.
All right. Trey Edmonds and a first round pick for the other Josh Allen in the league. The other Josh Allen. Josh Allen's in his final year of his contract. He's getting $7.5 million. Like you said, Trey is going to get $12.5 million or somewhere around there. $5 million difference. You pay him that money. You give it to him. We want him. And you offer them a first. So I think Trey Edmonds was taken 1 year earlier, both in the first round. Both Josh Allen and Trey are first round picks, no doubt. Right. Not only am I willing to kind of throw some money your way, and I'm going to give you a first round pick. Not this year, maybe this year if you want it, or maybe next year. Obviously, the Bills are a competitive team, so you're always going to be near the bottom of the first round with this pick. I'm starting to throw a first round pick. And again, if we were able to make that deal, I'm saying keep AJ Klein because we need a middle linebacker. Here's some other thoughts on that as well. So you had mentioned it last year that Trey is not a natural middle linebacker. It's not where he played in college. He was an outside linebacker. So maybe he goes to a team like the Jaguars and he goes back to his natural position. Maybe even the Bills experiment with put him over into that position and put Klein in the middle. I don't know. But the theme here is that you and I, and again, I didn't know you were going to use Trey Edmonds for your trade bait, and you didn't know I was going to use Trey Edmonds. So there's a common theme here. And again, whoever we make a deal with, we're willing to part with Trey Edmonds is the theme here. Whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Harold Landry, whether it's some other guy, whether it's Danielle Hunter, who is the most realistic one to make a deal with, we're ready to move on. And again, I don't know. Are you worried about that final year of the contract where you see players typically just have amazing years? And that could happen, but you're willing to take that risk as well.
I look at the more impactful player, more impactful position, I should say. And I think a defensive end, a guy who can actually get to the quarterback, is more impactful than what Tremaine Edmonds offers us right now. I'm not saying he's a bad player because there have been moments where it's like, man, this guy has it.
Yeah.
But then other times where he's in a position to make a play and he's not able to do it. And to pay a guy as much money as we're about to pay him and to also consider his future with us as a member of the team, I feel like even for him, maybe it'll help his career if he goes elsewhere. So I feel like right now we're in a point where we need to make a move. We either make a move or we just let him play it out. And I'm more on the side of making a move. We need some pass rush. We do. And it's been the theme since God knows how long. 3 years now. And wouldn't that be something we had 2 Josh Allens on the team, Mike?
I know. I was like, I don't want to hear Josh Allen intercepted by Josh Allen anymore. I want to hear Josh Allen on the same team.
Josh Allen won that game for the Jags against us. The Jags, Josh Allen won that game against us.
Thinking back on the Jags loss, which was a huge loss for us, obviously. But, you look at who the Jags beat last year. They beat the Dolphins. They beat the Bills. And they knocked the Colts out from making the playoffs. 3 really good teams. So the future's bright for them. I don't know why they were able to up their game for those 3 teams and beat them, but those were high-quality teams. Did the teams overlook them? I don't think so. Maybe I'm not going to use that excuse. We didn't overlook them. And I know Indy certainly wasn't overlooking them because Indy had a playoff spot on the line last year, and they took it away from them. So crazy stuff. Trey, I mean, there's no doubt his athleticism is off the charts. He's got 240. What is he? 240 something, 6'5", runs a 4.5, something crazy like that. Super good speed. His coverage is a little lacking, and to me, his run support is bad. I mean, he never seems to be making a play at the line of scrimmage or making any big tackle for losses. I don't know. I guess I'm just spoiled with some of the old-time middle linebackers. I'm expecting to see more of that. Sure. I get it. Maybe it's not our defensive scheme that we're playing. Maybe it is the guys in front of them. I just don't buy it. So I'm with you. I'm ready to move on there.
I think the theme here too, Mike, is that we're just tired of paying potential players.
Yeah,
Even Jerry Hughes. We're tired of paying guys
yeah,
that have the potential to get there but don't actually finish. So we need finishers.
I
That's the
agree.
difference between us winning a Super Bowl and not. That's the difference between 13 seconds even happening,
Yeah.
you know? So that's really what it is.
So we kind of went through everything. I appreciate this is a long show for us, but Jake and I, we've been off for a month now, and we're loving this. So we could probably
Yeah,
go on
this
for
is
another.
great.
We can go on for another hour easily. But
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you for all that participated in the channel, and I hope to whether you're watching it live now or whether you're watching it a little bit later, you got 2 weeks before the things kick off. A little over 2 weeks before the free agency starts, and I think one of us, Jake or I, are going to hit it right on the button. I hope. One of us
I hope so too.
One of us.
Hey, don't forget the NFL Combine starting this week too, Mike. We get to see guys running their underwear, as Chris said.
Yeah. I know some folks are doing shows on that. And you'd probably be down for that. But our next shows that I think we're targeting are pre-draft, and we'll do some post-draft stuff. We can maybe do something after the combines, but I think that falls into the pre-draft for us, right? We're gonna, we've seen everything that happened in the combines. Let's talk about who we're going to target in those draft positions that we have.
That sounds good to me. By the way, I started off this morning, Mike. You called me an encyclopedia, so I appreciate that. I appreciate the heck out of that. You're making my head big. But I love looking at the past and where we've gone. So I was just looking at some different Bills things, and I thought of a really good trivia question. So I'm going to leave you with this one.
Okay.
And the reason why I thought of this is because shout out to Jim Doyle. He's a friend of mine. He's on Twitter. He retweeted a thing, and it's like, name a random NFL running back that is just forgotten over the years. So the answer to that was Dexter Mccluster. That's how this guy started off. So we posted a thing of Dexter Mccluster, who was a running back. He played with the Chiefs. He played with the Titans. And then he sort of just faded off. So I was thinking of old school players and stuff like that. A name that came to mind was Olandis Gary. He played with the Bills for a hot second, but he was with the Broncos. He had a 1,000-yard season with them. Came to Buffalo, was kind of a backup, served as a backup for Travis Henry. But I thought of a really good name, a forgotten running back. He led the team in rushing yards in 2000. So this is the first year of the drought that we didn't know was going to happen for 17 seasons. This guy filled in for Antoine Smith because he got injured, and he was our leading rusher. I don't know if you remember who it was, Mike. It's not a big name player by any means. He played in the league for about 5 years. He had 500 and something yards. He was a rookie this year out of Tennessee. I actually have a signed mini helmet of him, which is ridiculous. I found it at the Erie County Fair the one year. It was nuts. But not sure if you'll even remember the name, but he was our leading rusher that year.
I'm trying to think.
It's a tough one. This is 22 years now. So this is a long time. 2000 season. We went 8-8 this year.
8-8. Nothing's coming to mind at all.
Okay. I don't know if anyone's going to get it in the channel.
Let's give him a little bit.
Ian. My buddy Ian. Look at that. Hey, Ian, thanks for joining, man. That's a great freaking name. I was just looking this up because I'm like, man, I thought he led the team in rushing yards that year. Sean Bryson, he was a running back for us. University of Tennessee. He was a rookie that year. Ended up going to the Lions after that. That was a tremendous running back core, by the way, Mike. We're going back. We're thinking about these old school running backs and whatnot. Let's talk about that team. I might do a post on my 4th and 30 about it because I got to start incorporating some of that too. So if you guys want to follow me on there too, I'm just going to give myself a shameless plug there. I'm going to do some Bills material on it as well. But Sean Bryson was the answer for that.
Wow.
Forgotten player. I think he only played with the Bills for maybe 2 or 3 seasons, but that's a great name. It's a great long lost running back for you.
Wow. I don't. That guy.
Did you even know?
No.
I was going to say,
guy doesn't even ring a bell, even though you told me. I don't remember that guy whatsoever. Of course, I'm an old guy, though, Jake. My memory isn't, 5 years back is pushing it for me. Other than those Kelly years, I will never forget those Kelly years.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another guy that came to mind, I know Chris earlier in the channel was like, we should go after a running back. And a guy that is out there, and I should have gave him an honorable mention. Obviously, we talked about Connors, but Leonard Fournette. I like Fournette. Yeah. I mean, he is available. I don't know what he's going to command. I think it's similar to what Connors was going to command. So there's another guy that we could target.
I love it.
If we can't get any of those other big targets we wanted, let's go after something. So,
And Ian, I think you're right. I think you did get that mini helmet. I got the J.R. Redmond helmet over here. It's in my man cave, believe it or not. It is a Patriots helmet, though, Mike. So don't judge me. It
what?
was back in the day. I know it was a
What?
long time ago. It was just a player that
Ooh,
was near and dear to our heart.
we're gonna
I
have to
know
restructure your contract, Jake. We're gonna
it's
have to
bad. It's bad.
Nickel City Mafia. We'll get in touch
I
with you.
try not to discriminate too much. I listen. I have some hatred for the Patriots in my heart, but I don't hate all the players per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
No,
I try to be open minded with everything.
So you see over my shoulder here, which shoulders? Over this shoulder here. I have a little mini helmet
Yes,
there. That's Mr. Jim Kelly's signature on that mini helmet.
I love
Mr.
it.
Jim Kelly. I also have, I'm going to bring it in. It'll have to go on my wall over here because it's big. Back when I lived in Buffalo, I had my grandparents lived on Marilla Street. They lived they lived there for many, many years. They rented. And the owners downstairs had to connect with someone with the Bills. And what they did for me one year for Christmas, I wish it was a jersey. It wasn't. I'll take it. It was a cool T-shirt, just a shirt with a Bills logo on it. Something I'll show you later. But it has Jim Kelly signed it, Thurman Thomas signed it, Bruce Smith signed it,
Nice.
Reed signed it. I mean, all the players from that era. I have their autograph, man. You just got to put that on the wall. It's beautiful. It's actually a nice big.
That's awesome.
frame.
Yeah, you'll have to do that.
Yeah, cool stuff.
That's cool.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Did you say Z-Bell?
Yeah, so that's my buddy Ian.
Ian, okay.
The name Z-Bell has nothing to do with his actual name.
Okay.
He had this made up alter ego that he went with a long time ago. Not even an alter ego, but we started YouTube a long time ago, Mike. We actually were doing shows, it wasn't shows, but it was like different videos and stuff on different sports topics. But he didn't want to go by his actual name, so we just called himself Zedediah Bellinger. I don't know why. So Z-Bell84 shortened it up. Yes, but yeah, he says if the Bills' top need is an offensive line, they're wrong. I definitely think it's a huge need. I mentioned Austin Corbett, maybe targeting him. Obviously, re-signing Ryan Bates, keeping that chemistry, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we talked about a couple of those guys. I maybe disagree a little bit. Only you saw all my top targets, right? You saw them, but
pass rush.
But I think if we get Bates back and we get Corbett back, I wouldn't mind that as well. So that, like I said, that offensive line towards the end of the year was stellar for me, and everyone that was starting for us, we want back. We're expecting back, and the only guy that we'd have to re-sign in that for that to happen is Bates, and I think that's going to happen. He's restricted free agent. There's no reason that I don't see that happening unless somebody just makes him some crazy deal that we just can't match. But I just don't see that happening. So we'll have that line back that was there for those last 3-4 games. You'll have a Spencer Brown, more polished Spencer Brown, Tommy Doyle. Tommy Doyle, I think, is going to be
forget about him.
Right, bright future. Yeah. So I think we got a good core there. Anyhow, I want to say again, any final thoughts, Jake? We already talked about it. You're going to see us soon. We're going to do the pre-draft, post-draft. Who knows? We might even come up on another show, but those are definitely in the works. So you're going to see us here not too far in the future. We got the golf shows on Tuesday. We got Tony and Rick bringing you some of the greatest content you'll have if you're a DraftKings player or if you're just a bet, like to place bets on golf. Watch that show. It's good stuff. They actually had 2 back-to-back winners. They were going for the 3-peat or the turkey this week. Doesn't look like any of their guys are going to hit, but there was one guy sort of in the mix, but it was going to take a lot to make it happen. But check them out. We got Chris and Rick who do our fantasy football shows. That's going to start. They're going to have some good stuff talking about all the different types of fantasy football leagues that I'm not aware of, that I was surprised by last year. I got taken by surprise because somebody put me in their league, like, hey, Mike, you want to get in my league? Sure. I'm thinking it's the conventional league, but no. Yeah. It was one of those leagues, those flex leagues where you can start 2 quarterbacks, and I was screwed.
Oh, I love it.
I was screwed right from the get-go. But, Jake, final thoughts from you, man.
I'm a little lost without football right now, Mike. I'm glad that we got to do the show. I'm really excited for the off season here. And don't forget, we got the USFL coming up in 2 months. That'll be fun. They just showed all the jerseys and uniforms, so that'll be sweet. My poor wife, she thought she was getting off the hook for a few months, but we're right back into it. So pretty excited.
Yeah. And Ian saying if we're complacent with just those 3 games that they showed up, then it'll keep happening. And again,
that's fair. No, that's definitely fair.
Very fair.
Yeah.
don't disagree. The struggles we had throughout the year, man,
Yeah,
that was painful. That was so painful. All right, well, final thoughts for me. That's I don't have any. I think I've shared all 9, and I'm great. It's great to be back with you, Jake. Appreciate you.
yeah.
It's been a long time, a month, and I'm looking forward to more shows. The more we can talk football, the better for me, for you, and for everyone. So hope to see you guys soon. Until then, let's go Buffalo. Let's hit one of these free agent targets. Come on now, let's do it.
Let's go. All right, go Bills.
Bye now.